Alright, welcome back all you beasties and bloodsuckers to the next episode of MetaZoo gameplay, strategy, and deck tech here at Blastoise's Lair. Thanks for stopping in. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you like what we got going on here or in any of our other videos. And, you know, if you have any other decks that you'd like to see profiled or improvements to this build or any other builds that you've seen, please be sure to comment down below. We've also got all of this info available on the website at blastoiseslairtcg.com, as well as our Instagram profile under the same name, Blastoise's Lair. Okay, today's feature, we're going to go through a duel or a deck, Forest Thunder, that takes the best of both attributes from the Lightning and Forest meta. This deck is going to overwhelm your opponent early, but also has versatility to mill through mid-game, bringing out some of your bigger beasties like Quetz or Bigfoot, with the addition of Grand National Forest buff to handle the board. Splinter Cat has some pretty crazy abilities thanks to its quick attacks and fleet. And you know, Quetz has fleet as well, who's going to help clean up from the sky. Phantom Car will keep your opponent super frustrated while you lean on Forest Growth ability and Germinate to get the draw that you need, ultimately letting loose that Lightning Storm at the perfect time with spells like Call of the Storm to swing momentum and lead to pretty consistent victories. For a quick breakdown on the deck profile for the Forest Thunder, control, we've got a 3 out of 5. You know, most of these are pretty low cost cards, so it is fairly easy to maintain board control, but you know, it can get out of hand sometimes. Aggression, it's a pretty hard aggro deck, 4 out of 5, with once again ramp being 4 out of 5 due to most of the low cost on some of the core cards here. Consistency, I gave it a 5 out of 5, which I don't typically do with dual aura decks, but I really feel like this one runs smoothly. And then from a budget standpoint, a 2 out of 5. This is a fairly low cost deck that should be pretty easy to put together, with the highest cost cards being the Prism Aura, which, you know, are great obviously for dual aura decks, but I think for this one aren't, you know, necessarily pivotal. All right, let's focus first on a little beastie breakdown here. Obviously, the feature here is on the Splinter Cat. I think, you know, this was kind of one of the main reasons this deck was built or featured, was specifically, you know, the abilities of this beastie. So, you know, with only a 2 cost and being fleet, it's got some nice power right off the bat. It's also got some pretty good situational abilities. What's really nice, I think, is if you use Felled Tree as a 4th wall. The ability says if Felled Wall is within eyesight, place this beastie into your chapter after resolving combat. So it's almost like a pull back to your hand after it's potentially taken damage from combat. So if you are, it's nice to get these guys out early because they have fleet and you can kind of take a quick chunk out. But if it's mid to late game and you have enough aura on the table, you can kind of, it's almost like a vicious attack, just kind of coming back and back, because they're going to bounce back to your hand and then come back out with fleet again. There's not going to be a lot they can do to stop it. The other thing is it does have an ability. Once per turn, you may destroy a Forest Terra, and then that beasties will inflict paralyze until the end of your turn, and then you once again awaken this beastie. So you can, you know, destroy your Forest Terra if needed to almost turn this into a lightning in a bottle with a paralyze, which, you know, could be helpful given the right kind of situation in the game. We also do have a few Sasquatches in the deck. Wood Devil of Coos Country is obviously crucial in most of those, in most any deck, honestly, to help with the ramp and kind of try to find that growth quicker. Also helps with the disperse damage ability. You know, Bigfoot is in there to help take down some of those bigger beasties, and kind of pairs well with some of our spells that we'll go through in a minute here. These are more kind of late game, I guess. Bigfoot and Quetz as well as Snipe are more kind of late game heavy hitters to kind of come in and clean up. You know, the rest of these cards, if you've played any lightning decks yourself, you're definitely familiar with. We got Phantom Car, Quetzalcoatlus, and Snipe. These are staples in any lightning build. Mostly, Phantom Car has got a super frustrating ability where it's essentially a coin flip to end combat for any opposing attack, which will kind of, let you set up your board while, they got a 50-50 shot to miss either Swing at Caster or any of your Beasties. And then, Quetz is kind of I don't think Quetz needs to much review. Obviously, one of the biggest beasties in the game, coming in with fleet, and if you have that lightning storm out, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Snipe, I think everybody's also familiar with, a pretty bad beastie, but this card specifically, I love, and want to maybe bring a little bit more attention to. If you build lightning decks, once again, you probably already know about this one, but this is a Pin Club Snipe, which is almost like a Snipe tutor, I guess. So it only costs 3, which is 2 less than the beefier version here. It doesn't do obviously nearly as much damage at 40, but if you read, it has an ability to search your spellbook or chapter for a Snipe, place it into the arena fatigued, then place this beastie on the bottom of your spellbook. So you could go about it a few ways. If you really wanted to get that Snipe out right away, you could throw this baby out there. Maybe you have a lightning in a bottle and can fatigue it, and then throw your get your Snipe out right away. Or the other thing that you could do is maybe attack once or twice, since it does have Paralyze as well. And then once it has accrued a few hit points of damage, you could then inflict its ability, which will absorb an additional hit from your opponent and then bring out the heavy hitter Snipe. So I really like this combo as well, and for one more reason, which we'll go through in the spell portion right now. Okay, for a look into the spells and a little spell breakdown here, these are simple but powerful spells for sure on both sides. So I think everybody's familiar with these 4. These are going to be staples in basically every deck. We've got 2 bookmarks, a New Beginnings, and a Power Up Red. I did include Cryptid Nation in this build because it's going to allow you to bring out all your Quets, which there's 4 of, as well as your Bigfoot out for only 2 costs, which can be a game changer in early game if you happen to draw this in the first couple of turns. We've got Growth, which is an absolute staple, not only in forest decks, but pretty much in all decks now, or always, with Wood Devil of Coos Country's ability. So if there's a plant within eyesight, you're going to get it to bookmark 5. The Baby Growth, Germinate, which is also a fantastic card, more specific with forest builds because of its ability. You're still going to get a bookmark 1 regardless, but the next page that you contract in your turn is going to cost 1 less to a minimum of 1 if that beastie was a beastie with a forest bonus, excuse me. So where that really comes in key for the early game and the ramp, and why it kind of nullifies the fact that this is a duel or a deck, we're really trying to get those Splinter Cat out as quickly as possible, and Splinter Cat happened to have the forest bonus. So you're going to be able to, if you kind of play your hand and get the cards appropriately, to play a Germinate for 1 forest aura, and then you're going to follow that up and be able to play a Splinter Cat for only 1 aura, and it doesn't say which aura it takes away, so you could play it for either that lightning or the forest. Which kind of goes back to the point on versatility and why I kind of like this deck. It also gets your Bigfoot and your Coos out, Wood Devil of Coos Country out for 1 less aura. So once again, your Wood Devil would be out for a cost of 1, or a Bigfoot for 3, are pretty interesting. I think the last focus here, the only lightning spells that I have, but by far the most powerful potentially, Call of the Storm. So this is a crazy spell. Search your spellbook for 2 beasties, each with an aura cost of 4 or less and the same name. Place them in the arena awakened. Lightning is now considered active until the end of the turn. At the end of this turn, send 1 of the chosen beasties to limbo. So for 4 cost, you're going to be able to bring out both Quets, who are going to have fleet, so they're going to be ready to swing. And not only, the kicker on this is that lightning is enabled. So with the Quets, you're going to get that plus 50 Terra bonus. which is pretty overwhelming. I think, you know, the one drawback is you're going to have to kill off one of the Quetzes at the end of the turn. But, you know, by that time, the momentum has probably swung so much that it might not matter. Okay, next we'll quickly go over the Aura and Terra breakdown here. While, you know, I do think this dual Aura deck runs specifically smooth than others because of the Splinter Cat and kind of Forest spells combined. Like, let's be honest, this is predominantly just a Lightning build. You know, you could probably throw in a few Radioactive Hornets, Metal Man of Alabama, Lightning Bolts, and just like run Lightning meta, but, you know, what fun is that? So, you know, with that being said, we've tinkered around with kind of the appropriate number of Aura on each side for both Forest and Lightning, you know, along with the 2 Prism, which are, you know, obviously insanely helpful. I think 6 Forest and 4 Lightning is appropriate, especially because you're going to have that ability to hopefully mill with Growth and Germinate. And, you know, there's kind of tutors built in with not only the snipes, but the Quetzes as well. You know, we doubled down on Terra here. Obviously, if you don't have the Call of the Storm, there's only 2 per spellbook. You know, the Lightning Storm is going to help basically all of your Lightning beasties, and the Forest is going to buff all of your Forest. I think the one reason we included this special Terra here is Grand National Park does have the arena ability of beasties with an aura cost of 4 or higher have plus 10 life points and plus 10 damage while Terra is in the arena. So that's going to buff all of your Quetz, Bigfoot, and Wood Devil to, you know, swing for a little bit more and be a little bit tougher to take down. Okay, the last quick thing we'll do here is run through fourth wall items, weaknesses, archive, side deck, and budget options. From a fourth wall standpoint, you're going to want the Felled Tree, which is going to buff the Splinter Cat, Light Bulb, obviously for Quetz, and then Bonsai Tree for Wood Devil's ability. You know, as far as weaknesses, like I've mentioned a few times, I feel like this build does run pretty consistent. If you can get a few Aura, a cat, or a car. If you don't get the Aura, the cat, or the car in the first few turns, it might be a little bit tougher. Luckily, there is that ability to kind of slog through mid game with some of those mills, but by then, you know, when we were play testing, this one had like a tough time against Cosmic, who was able to swarm the board pretty quick before, you know, we were able to get some of the heavy hitters out. So I think the other things, depending on how resilient your beasties are in the battle, you know, and depending on how many times you pull Call of the Storm, you might not have enough late game power because you had to kill off those Quetz a few times. But, you know, I think you hopefully should be good with the power on the board here. I said this in my last build with that was focused on the headless fireball effigies, but Lightning in a Bottle should honestly probably be included in the main. But once again was sacrificed to stick to 40 cards. It's, you know, these buffs are nice, but Lightning in a Bottle could probably take turns of the 2 Terra and be even better. The combos with the Fleet and even Call of the Storm would be crazy because you would essentially squeeze 2 swings out of the Quetz with an additional Lightning in the Bottle before you had to kill it off before end of turn, which would be, you know, nice. I think the other things, this honestly really started as a true Forest Lightning deck with Splinter Cat, Copenhagen Devil, and Sally Ann Thunder, which are fun cards for sure. But honestly, when I played it, like I never even got to those cards. The game was already over by then because Splinter Cat was so effective. And I also included Phantom Car in that original build. And I think the combo of these two are super kind of frustrating for opponents. From a budget standpoint, it's only 2 out of 5, so this is a pretty budget-friendly deck. Like I mentioned, the core cards are going to be pretty available in CN2, in common, you know, non-holo. The biggest ones are going to be the Prism Aura, but really easy to just swap in another Forest and Lightning Aura and kind of call it good. It's going to, you know, it might be a tick down in consistency, but you're not gonna see any crazy swings. This Night Pin Club is a little bit harder to find. I went with the budget option, the non-holo. The alt is kind of crazy to acquire, but you know, this I feel like is an affordable card if you're going to run Lightning, and it's pretty pretty viable in the deck. The last thing is, I guess, the Quets. Quets are a little bit tougher, especially if you have to buy full play sets of all this stuff at once. You definitely don't need to run all 4 Quets. If we want to talk through some like side deck or swap out budget options, Thunderbird I feel like is totally viable to run 2 Thunderbird, 2 Quets, or even, you know, more birds if you want, because Call of the Storm is super powerful. You know, other replacements, kind of talking through, we talked through, you know, you could put Metal Man of Alabama in here and really kind of go hard on the fleet. I don't know if everybody's still carrying around radios with them to tournaments, but, you know, I feel like that was still leaning too hard towards basically just being a Lightning deck. You know, and from budget options, the rest of these core cards, as I mentioned, are pretty attainable. So this should be a fairly feasible deck to put together and try to run yourself. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of MetaZoo gameplay, strategy, and deck tech at Blastoise's Lair. I hope you liked this feature on the Forest Thunder. If you did, make sure to comment below on, you know, changes, tweaks you would have made, some weaknesses, maybe some counters. Next edition, we will be sticking with the dual aura forest focus. We're gonna swap out the lightning for a spirit and do a little squirrel focus. So check back next week for a look at the squirrel deck. Peace out. Appreciate you all. See you next time.